Alrighty. All right, what's up, everybody? So, going live here. Um, Wanted to talk a bit about Cody Bellinger, obviously. There's a lot going on right now in terms of just all the updates, everything. So, let's get into it. So, as far as we have heard, Cody Bellinger wants a 7-year deal. Scott Boras, his agent, is advocating for a 7-year deal. AAV in the range of $36 to $37 million. Now, you do the math on that, and you're going significantly over $200 million. The Yankees supposedly made him an offer slightly over $30 million for supposedly 5 years. So that puts it at about 5 for 160. And I personally, I think that's the best offer he has right now. I'm just guessing. I don't know. But I mean, I put a hard line in 5 years. I like Cody Bellinger. I like who he is as a player, but I'm going to go into a little bit of like the specifics about why I am dead set on 5 years for him. And based on his market, like Ken Rosenthal said today, there's interest, but there's varying levels of interest, right? You have teams that are, in the mix. Teams like the Yankees, okay, he's our number one priority. Is he the number one priority for the Mets? I mean, we've heard the Mets linked to Tucker and other names. And like starting pitching, like what are they going to do? We've heard other teams, the Dodgers a little bit. They need outfield help. But again, are any of those teams going to go to a 7-year length? I honestly don't think so. I really don't think so. I mean, and I like Bellinger. I like who he is as a player. The problem is he's had a lot of up and down years. I mean, you look at I'm pulling up his baseball reference right now. 2025, 5-WAR player, close to 30 home runs, hit 272, 813 OPS. He's a solid player, Gold Glove defense, right, in left field. But you go, through his baseball reference, through his years, he's been in the league for almost 10 years now. Came up in 2017, Dodgers top prospect, and really burst on the scene, right? We saw his first couple years, won some MVPs, Rookie of the Year, and 2019, most notably 8.7 WAR, hit 47 home runs, drove in 115 RBIs, like insane numbers, right? But then you go into 2020, the pandemic year, did not have a great year, only 1.5 WAR player, hit 239. That was the year the Dodgers won the World Series, actually, and Cody Bellinger apparently hurt his shoulder, doing like a home run celebratory thing. Then you go into 2021, negative 1.6 WAR type of player, hit 165. 2022, bounced back, but not like, not Cody Bellinger like early Dodgers days, right? 1.3 WAR, 19 home runs, hit 210. Still not great. I mean, bounced back, but not, not the player we saw like earlier years with the Dodgers. 2023 had a great bounce back year. This was similar to the Cody Bellinger we saw this year. 4.8 WAR, hit 307, 26 home runs. So like that's on par for like in terms of his ceiling, look like what he's been, right? 2024 had a down year, regressed off of that, 2.2 WAR. Hit 266, had I think it was like, I believe like a thumb injury or something that kind of hampered him a little bit. But again, a lot of up and down years. And then you go into 2025, arguably second best year of his career outside of 2019, 5.1 WAR, 813 OPS, nearly 30 home runs in Yankee Stadium. Obviously, Yankee Stadium did help his numbers, of course. Left-handed hitter, short porch, all that. And what Bellinger provides, in terms of defense, 93rd percentile amongst left fielders. He was great out there. In terms of his offensive production in Yankee Stadium, he was great. People like to talk about the home road splits as well. So obviously he's going to benefit being in Yankee Stadium. He's 30 years old. But again, like if you're handing him like a 5-year deal, right, you don't necessarily know how that's going to age in terms of just trying to predict Bellinger future production. So there's a little bit of uncertainty there. And then if you go to 6 or 7 years, that's just territory. I don't see the Yankees being in. They're obviously not in. I don't want to go to that length for him. And It's just, I think it's just waiting out the market. Boris wants to get 7 years. And obviously, if you're an agent negotiating 101, you're going to shoot high, right? You're going to shoot for a number you might not get, but is, you know, in your mind, okay, possible. But at the end of the day, I just don't physically see that happening in terms of the market, in terms of the impending lockout. You got teams like the Mets, right? Steve Cohen's got all the money in the world. They're doing more short-term deals this offseason. You saw Luke Weaver, Devin Williams, bringing in Marcus Semien, trading Brandon Nimmo. I mean, David Stearns has like a philosophy that doesn't really agree with, giving Cody Bellinger 6 or 7 years. And you want to point to Juan Soto last year, like, okay, Juan Soto, like, he's a much better player than Cody Bellinger. And that had Steve Cohen's name written all over it. Steve Cohen was interested in Juan Soto for many years. So, yeah, the Mets can be interested in Soto, but I thought Ken said it best today. Like, there's varying levels of interest, right? I think if you look at all the teams, the team that looks to be from the outside have the most interest is the Yankees. Stated their number one priority. They've already made him several offers that have been public that we know about. And now we're like in this holding pattern because depending on what happens with Bellinger really dictates the rest of the offseason. If you re-sign Bellinger, then Jones and Dominguez, two outfielders, become trade chips, right? If you don't re-sign Bellinger, then you have, like Cashman said, you have Dominguez and Jones competing for the left field spot. But I like what the Yankees are doing in the aspect of waiting this out because I think they are at the point where they could be outbidding themselves. And that doesn't make any sense. I like Cody Bellinger. I like who he is as a player. 5 years is like a hard stop, though. I think that's where the Yankees are at. That's where I sort of agree with them in terms of that assessment. Their first offer was probably 4 years. Then they went to 5. Then they probably upped the AAV a little bit. They did over $30 million. So if you're doing the simple math here, if they offered 32 AAV, let's say, times 5 years, that's 160, right? If they did, let's say they upped it to 35, right? That's 175. So if they do a counter, I think maybe they would up the AAV a little bit, but over 30 AAV puts Cody Bellinger within, I saw reports today, like within the top 4 amongst outfielders in the game in terms of AAV. And Scott Boras asking for 37 AAV. To put that in perspective, Aaron Judge has a $40 million AAV. That's $40 million per year, average annual value. $3 million shy of Aaron Judge. That is, I'm sorry, but that's just, the Yankees think that's crazy, and I kind of have to agree with them there. That is very excessive, and I don't think he's getting that on the open market unless you do have one owner that's obsessed with, okay, we got to land this guy, say Tucker's off the board. But at the end of the day, I think it's really just the Yankees outbidding themselves at this point. And if I had to guess, 5 for 160, I would say that's probably, and I'm just guessing, that could be his best offer right now. And that means if Bellinger and Boris want in the mid 200s, they're like $90 million, something around there, $90 million apart in negotiations. But what team is stepping in and giving Bellinger those extra years and higher AAV? We've heard the Dodgers, we've heard the Mets, we've heard the Giants, the Angels, and then the Yankees. But again, like, how serious are the Dodgers? You think the Dodgers know him better than anybody. And I'm not sold the Dodgers are going to even be willing to give him 6, let alone 7. I mean, maybe they're interested on like a shorter term, higher AAV, like we've heard about Tucker. But Tucker is essentially the better player compared to Cody Bellinger. And he's younger. He's several years younger. So from a Dodgers standpoint, it doesn't make sense other than the fact of, okay, he's a nice player and say you miss out on Kyle Tucker. But what you would be paying Kyle Tucker, you'd be paying him more. And if he takes a shorter term deal and you raise the AAV, I mean, that's a better bet for the Dodgers, in my opinion. So it simply doesn't make sense. The only other team I could think about is like the Angels. I mean, the Angels, their owner gets very desperate at times. Paid Anthony Rendon, paid Albert Pujols. He's handed out some horrible contracts. That is one owner that comes to my mind that I can think of. Okay, yeah, he could give Bellinger 7 years if he's desperate, right? And all it takes is one owner, right? But at the end of the day, you think of the Yankees and you think of these other teams, and it's like his price has to come down. It has to. And if it doesn't, and you do have one team out there that throws him 7 years, okay, thank you, Cody Bellinger, for a great year, and goodbye. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do that. And I agree with Cashman not wanting to do that. 7 years is he's 30 years old. You're going to take him to his age 37 season when he's had like every other year a good and then a bad year. Like, what are we doing at that point? I don't, in an ideal world, right? 4 years would be perfect, but he's not going to do that. He once signed for 3 years with the Cubs. This is arguably, he's thinking in his mind, him and Scott Boras' mind, this is our last contract here, our last big contract, right? Essentially. So even 5, he doesn't want to take 5. 6 is like the middle area, right? Between 5 and 7. So maybe do the Yankees budge to 6? I have no idea, but they seem to be standing pat at 5 for now. And I think that's a good idea. And if I were Brian Cashman, what I would do, I would say, look, Cody, Scott, I understand you guys got to do what you got to do. But here's the situation. We have an offseason that is heavily dictated on this player, Cody Bellinger, in terms of not only if he comes back to our organization, but what we do with these other players and Spencer Jones, Jason Dominguez, etc. I would say our current offer, 5 years, 160, has a 48-hour time limit. If you do not accept within 48 hours, that offer is going to come off the table and we're going to go in another direction. We understand you have to do what you have to do to get the best deal. This is our best deal. This is our last offer. 5 years, 160. Take it or leave it. If you don't take it, then we're going to go in another direction. And what other direction would that be? I've talked about countless times on here. I want the Yankees to go after Bo Bichette. I think there is a very real possibility Bo Bichette could maybe sign for around the same, if not maybe a little less than Cody Bellinger because of like the injury history and all that. And he's not great defensively. But what he is a hitter in terms of not only being 27 years old, but his makeup, his consistency as a hitter at the big league level would fit perfectly in the Yankees lineup, would fit perfectly at the leadoff spot. And it just makes too much sense. And we kind of all assumed like, okay, Bellinger's going to get 150. That's something in the range of what Bichette could get. So if you're not going to spend that money on Bellinger, you might as well spend that on Bo Bichette. Now, Kyle Tucker is obviously going to cost more, I would say, in terms of years, obviously, and AAV, just being the player that he is. He's younger than Cody Bellinger. And I would even say consider that at this rate. Like if your offer is approaching $200 million category for Cody Bellinger, just go pay Kyle Tucker, man. And I'm saying this as someone that didn't really see the Kyle Tucker fit in terms of, okay, you have Judge and right. Kyle Tucker's a right fielder. Like left field doesn't make sense. But I feel like you make it work. Go out, you get the best bat behind Aaron Judge, whether that's Bo Bichette, whether that's Kyle Tucker, and then you figure out the pitching. And Kyle Tucker would still allow them to be able to use Dominguez or Jones as a trade chip for pitching. And I think even if you don't re-sign Bellinger and say you went after a Bo Bichette in a perfect world, you could still use either Dominguez or Jones as a trade chip, whichever one you are open to trading, right? And then obviously you ride with the other one going into spring training, I think, or I don't know. But at the end of the day, I feel like that money has to be spent regardless, whether it's spent on Cody Bellinger and Boras either comes down with the price, or if they somehow get a better offer, then take that money, you go after Bo or you go after Tucker. And everybody says, oh, go after Bichette and Cody Bellinger. And I don't disagree with that. Like in a perfect world, if George Steinbrenner was still here, still George Steinbrenner days, yes, like that would be the perfect scenario. Okay, you signed Bo Bichette, you signed Cody Bellinger. But at the end of the day, with what Cody Bellinger's market is, the Yankees are done with these kind of contracts. Okay, we did this with Aaron Hicks, Jacoby Ellsbury, DJ LeMahieu most recently. It just doesn't make sense to hand out these kind of deals when a guy is 30 and up. It usually never works out. You have exceptions, right? But usually it doesn't work out. Usually you're paying for what, and this is a term, famously I've heard, just across baseball, the landscape, you're paying for past production instead of what's forecasted in the future. And that's a very bad place to be. That is a place that the Angels were at with Albert Pujols, Anthony Rendon, and at the end of the day, I don't want the Yankees to do that. I don't want the Yankees to be hamstringed by another bad contract, someone in their mid to late 30s. And at the end of the day, I would be okay if Bellinger got a better deal elsewhere, say hypothetically. The Yankees figure it out with Jones and Dominguez. You upgrade the starting pitching. The Yankees farm system is loaded with pitching prospects. You figure out that side of things in terms of a trade. You bring in a starting pitcher. You spend some money on the bullpen, and you consider a Bo Bichette. And in that scenario, I think you can have a good offseason and lose Cody Bellinger. Versus, say Bellinger takes the 5 for 160. What else are they going to be doing at this point? They are going to be well over $300 million on the payroll. And in terms of luxury tax, which we know they don't like going over that threshold, realistically, what else are they going to do? It would really be like, and I heard Joel Sherman talk about this, like the 2021 offseason. I almost made a post about this, by the way, but they signed DJ LeMahieu, 6 for, it was like 80 or 90 million, something like that. And then it was signed Corey Kluber to a 1-year deal, older pitcher, right? And then they traded for Jameson Taillon. And like that offseason, in comparison to where we are now, looks like leaps and bounds better. But then we knew how that 2021 season ended. It wasn't good enough. So again, like at the end of the day, I'm very content with how the Yankees are handling this, because the way Boris is handling it is, the only really 2 good outfielders left in this market, Kyle Tucker and Cody Bellinger. So we're going to use that as leverage to try and get more years and dollars out of Cody Bellinger. Okay, that's smart. And the Yankees badly need to address left field, so also using that against the Yankees. But then from a Yankees perspective, it's like, okay, we have these 2 younger outfielders, and we can easily take that money and spend it on another bat in free agency. That's why the Bo Bichette rumors came out. All that stuff is coming out. It's all a tactic, negotiation strategies, this and that from both sides. And at the end of the day, if he gets a better offer than 5 years, I'm not upset. I'm more upset if the Yankees cave in here and they give him 6 or 7 years, because I love Cody Bellinger. I like who he is as a player, but I'm sorry. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I do not think it's in the best interest of this franchise to do that. And it's not about money. It's more about years, especially at a position that you're going to be tied down to. If you're going all in with Cody Bellinger, you bring him back and you trade, say, a Spencer Jones or Jason Dominguez, that's what you're going into with. So Cody Bellinger could come out in 2026 and have like a 2020 or 2021 like bad season at 180, and you're really starting to question the contract. I'm not saying that's what he's going to do, but in terms of the consistency and how much you're going to hand him, it's a little bit of cause for concern, because he's had a lot of up and down years. And that's not saying he's not a good player. That's just saying I'm not comfortable going to that length, because first of all, he's going to be past 30. And second of all, it's not like he's had these string of years where he's been this consistent 30-plus homer kind of player. He hasn't been that every year. It's been a lot of up and down. So that's why I'm hesitant. And when we traded for Cody Bellinger, I liked the trade, but I didn't know what kind of Cody Bellinger we were going to get. Were we going to get the Cody Bellinger in his first year with the Cubs in 2023, where he was a nearly 5-WAR player? Or are we going to get the 2024 version of Cody Bellinger? We saw the 2023 version of Cody Bellinger. He got healthy, 5-WAR player, defense, offensively, just solid all around. But are we going to see that next year? I don't know. There's not a lot when you look at his baseball, the back of his baseball card and everything around him. There's just not a lot of comfortability in terms of, okay, I know we're getting this kind of player year in and year out. And the older you get, the more of a risk that becomes, right? So essentially, I just see it in that lens of, you know, if it's meant to be and he stays and they work it out at 5 years, fine. That's great. If not, then thank you for a good year, Cody Bellinger, and you got to do what you got to do, man. You and Boris got to do what you got to do. That's fine. But I just don't think that's. I just don't think the Yankees are going to go there, and I agree with them on that wholeheartedly. So let me see what some of the comments are here. Sorry, I know I've been rambling a lot, but it's just a lot to cover, man. It's all this stuff. The rumors are coming out like crazy. Yankees are not going anywhere this coming season. They're focused on Cody. I mean, yes, they are focused on Cody right now. He's their number one priority, but I don't know. I feel like something is going to happen soon in terms of the Yankees are doing all these leaks. They're obviously very annoyed with Boris. You also have to factor everything with Soto last year. It's like they want to get on with their offseason. If Bellinger is not in the future plans, we want to move on as quick as possible. Get pitching, get another bat. I mean, I'm kind of in lockstep with the Yankees on that. Like, I'm just kind of tired of this already. You know, I just want the offseason to move on, whether he's here or not. Like at the end of the day, he's not a $30 million player. Judges have 40. No way. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the Yankees made him a very fair offer. They went over $30 million, which pays him like a top 4 outfield in the game. So you have Judge, Soto. I mean, you're putting Cody Bellinger's a good player, but yeah, that's overvalued, and I think that's a very fair offer. I don't think there's going to be a team out there that gives him well over $200 million. It's just not going to happen. But I don't I don't blame Boris for shooting that high because like if you're an agent, like yeah, you're going to try and shoot as high as you can, right? But I think there's going to come a point where it's like, all right, the asking price will come down because the market, especially with the impending lockout, I just don't see that as likely. He wants the Yankees, I think, to outbid themselves. And Brian Cashman is sitting there, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. His only top year was 19 in last year. That's it. 19, he was 8.7 WAR. 2025, he was 5.1. Don't discredit 2023. 2023, he was close to 5 WAR, hit over 300 with the Cubs. That was his first year with the Cubs. I remember because he came to Yankee Stadium, hit a bomb off Rodon in the second deck of the short porch. But 2023, he was very good. And then when he came up like 2017, 2018, he was a good player then, around a 4 WAR player. But yeah, like his best years, 2019 for sure. His other years aren't even close to that. And then 2023, 2025. But when he first came up in 2017 and 18, he was solid then too. So within like 9 years, he's got like what, 4.5, 5 good years and then 4 bad ones. So it's like a pretty closely evenly split down the line, essentially. Let the kids compete for the left field position. Yeah, if Bellinger leaves, I'm fine with that. I just don't want to see Bellinger leave and then it's like, all right, we don't really do anything else. Like obviously, there's money that has to be spent elsewhere to address the team, address the bullpen, address the starting staff. I would prefer another bat, a Bo Bichette, a Kyle Tucker, something. But yeah, I mean, if it's not meant to be with Bellinger, I'm totally fine. They let Dominguez and Jones compete for left field, and you address other holes on the team. You know, I'm totally fine with that. Take the money and go after Scuball. I like Scuball, but the Yankees checked in on him reportedly, and they got the vibe he would cost like half their team. That's obviously an exaggeration, but like in terms of what he would cost, I don't even know if the Yankees have enough to pull off a trade. If they did, it would deplete their whole farm, everything. Ben Rice too. Like you're trading so much talent for a 1-year rental. I know we did that with Soto, and I was fine with that. I really don't want to do that again. And Scuball is also represented by Boris. So I really just don't want to go down that road again. As great as Terry Scuball is, I just think that's just they shouldn't do that. And it's nothing against Scuball as the player. I just think the 1-year rental, I don't want to do that again. 5-year contract is definitely enough. Yeah, I agree. 5 years is that's my hard stop. I would say I would be open to 5 years and a 6-year club option that the Yankees can deny. Like they have that in Stan's contract, but 5 years, yeah. I'm good on 5 years. I truly, and I could always be wrong. Okay, this is me just guessing. I'm not a reporter. Just want to be clear about that. I just truly have a gut feeling that the Yankees have the best offer. And Scott Boras, he's a good agent, he's a good negotiator, and he's trying to get the Yankees to think that there's a lot more teams in it than there are. I really think it's just the Yankees, and I've talked to Yankee fans that in like DMs and stuff, and just people that hold that same sentiment. And I really do believe that. I think the Mets are interested, but it's like the Mets didn't want to give Alonso 5 years. They didn't want to go over 3 years for Diaz. Like David Stearns, what he's done, everything he's done this offseason, what makes anybody think he's going to give Cody Bellinger 7 years? Like that's a Steve Cohen thing. And is Steve Cohen going to do that? I don't know because he's kind of let David Stearns run the show this offseason in terms of moves and everything. Trained Brand Nimmo, letting Alonso walk, all this stuff. So I personally I don't think the Mets are going to do that. The Yankees aren't certainly willing to go 7. Um, the Dodgers, like that, people are saying interested in reunion again. Like what kind of interest, So it's just this could be Ellsbury 2.0. Yeah, I agree. I really do. Or not even so much Ellsbury. Look at DJ LeMahieu. DJ LeMahieu signed a 2-year deal with the Yankees. Had a great 2 years, right? 2019, 2020, and then 2021. Everybody's like, you got to bring LeMahieu back. You got to bring LeMahieu back. I even said bring LeMahieu back. I was like, you cannot let this guy walk. And I remember DJ LeMahieu, the one other team that really wanted him was Toronto. I remember that. And I was like, the Yankees got to get this done. And they got it done. 6 years, what was it, like 80, 90 million, something like that. But they it was horrible. DJ couldn't stay healthy. He wasn't the same player. Defensively, offensively. And I'm just curious, how old was DJ LeMahieu when he signed that contract? Because Bellinger's 30. DJ was 32. Okay, he was 2 years older. But again, like that's the thing about free agents. If you have a guy that's like a rare free agent that's 26, 27, it's different because obviously you're getting more years of their prime. So you'll hand them like an 8, 9, 10-year deal and you'll live with the terrible back end of it because you're getting more years of their prime. And by simple math, Cody Bellinger, he's older. He's gonna have less years left in the prime of his career where he's the type of caliber player that is now. So why would you give him 7 years if 4 of those years could be potentially awful? And you can't trade him. Nobody's taking that contract. You get hurt. Guys in their 30, they wear down. It's a different conversation if there was a little bit more consistency in Bellinger's career in terms of production and say he was like 2, 3 years younger. It's a different conversation. But it's like Cody Bellinger wants to be paid more than Kyle Schwarber and Pete Alonso because he's younger and because he's got the defense on top of the offensive versatility, but he doesn't have the same level of consistency in terms of production that Schwarber and Alonso have in their career. And from that retrospect, also considering the fact I don't think he's going to age well in general, handing him 7 years, like most free agents past 30 don't, then it just doesn't make sense. I don't understand that argument. I get from the sense why they're trying to make that argument, but I just don't see it as being realistic. Because Kyle Schwarber and Pete Alonso are two different players. And you look at the back of their baseball card and there's a lot more consistency. I know Alonso's had a year or two that wasn't great. And Schwarber, but they're going to play close to a full year. They're going to drive in, close to 100 runs, if not more. Hit you, at least 35 home runs. Like these are all things you can lock in. With Cody Bellinger, you can't. He's not an automatic lock to hit you 30 home runs. He really isn't. He's not an automatic lock to have, a 5-WAR season. He's just not. And I know what he does offensively and defensively, but just the inconsistencies, it worries me. It really does worry me. And everybody talking about, oh, well, New York, he's proven himself here. Yeah, DJ proved himself here too. And then we gave him that contract, and look what happened. I think the Yankees are done handing out contracts that don't age well for players approaching 30 years old and up, because historically it's not good. Jacoby Ellsbury, Aaron Hicks, DJ LeMahieu, they're done doing it, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I'd rather give $300+ million and overpay for Kyle Tucker, and have more years of consistent production and just more years of his prime window, and then deal with the back end of that contract versus doing this for Cody Bellinger. And I like Cody Bellinger. This is me saying someone that likes Cody Bellinger. Someone that likes Cody Bellinger. I am advocating for the Yankees to essentially, say we want you back, but we're not desperate, right? We're not desperate. We're not going to go 6 years. We're not going to go 7. We might consider the 6-year club option, but we're not going to go more than that. And that's final. Cody's losing his mind. 32 is an overpay. He actually wants 37. But the Yankees supposedly offered 32, which I agree is too much as it is. But Cody apparently wants 37, which is wild. And Judge makes 40. So let it go, spend it somewhere else. Yeah, I like I said, I would give Boris a deadline. Just be like, look, man, 48 hours. Come back to me. If the fish ain't biting in terms of other teams, come back to us. But you got 48 hours to let us know. That's what I would do. Because look, it's January 9th. Pitchers and catchers report in basically a month. I don't want to Bryce Harper, and Cody Bellinger's not Bryce Harper, but this is what happened with Harper. His contract talks extended into spring training. I don't want that. Yankees need pitching, starting pitching, bullpen help. I want this over within days. I'm sick of this dragging out at this point. Let him walk over to Queens. I really don't know if the Mets are that desperate for him. I think the Mets have sort of the same interest that the Yankees do. Like, okay, 4 or 5 years, like that's kind of where we're at. But any more than that, like I don't even think the Mets want to do that. If the Mets wanted Cody Bellinger so bad, wanted to give him 7 years, would have happened by now. There's if anything, Scott Boras could be waiting for Kyle Tucker to sign, right? Because it's like, all right, the teams that lose out on Kyle Tucker come to us now for Cody Bellinger, try and drive his price up, right? Just thinking about this holistically. But yeah, I don't want to do it. 5 years is where I stop. He's not near Judge's stratosphere. Correct. He's not. Why have the Yankees done anything? They're waiting on Bellinger. Bellinger dictates like pretty much their whole offseason in terms of what they do. Bellinger comes back. Jason Dominguez or Spencer Jones, if not both, could possibly get traded for pitching. And then if not, though, then you can't trade them because one of them's going to have to be your starting left fielder. And then you got to address other areas in the roster, too. Bullpen, starting pitching, and the Yankees are budget conscious. So if you're handing Cody Bellinger over $30 million for the next however many years, they're going to let it restrict them in terms of where they spend elsewhere. So it's pretty big, If the Yankees didn't care about money or years, then okay, yeah, give them whatever. But it's like they don't want to go way over $300 million, and that's where we're at right now. We're essentially waiting for Bellinger to make up his mind, so then we can either know is he going to be part of our future plans or not, and then what do we do moving after that? So it kind of sucks, but that's why I would put in a hard deadline for Scott Boras, like give us a yes or no, because I'm not waiting until late January, early February for this to go down. Yankees got to make moves. They got to get better. Like they've made a ton of minor league signings, depth moves, but nothing of significance, right? You brought back Trent Grisham, you brought back Ahmed Rosario, but it's like they have to make additions to make this team better. Just bringing back Cody Bellinger is essentially running it back. It's not necessarily making them better. So you have to get Cody Bellinger and then other pieces on top of it. So if you're waiting this long for Bellinger and more chips come off the board and you lose Bellinger, it's like you're screwed essentially. So I'm not waiting around. Like Bellinger has to make up his mind. 48 hours, yes or no. If it's a no, then thank you for 2025. Good luck to you. That's it. That's it. Boris and Bellinger are doing what's in their best interest. Good for them. Yankees got to do what's in their best interest. Period. That's it. So, I mean, there's look with Boris. Like there's a lot that's just like with the baseball offseason. It's just frustrating in terms of how slow it moves. But it's like, and I've always kind of advocated for, even though the players would never agree to it. Sort of like the NBA, NFL, like you have the signing deadline. It would be nice to have a signing deadline because it is just, I understand it from the perspective of Boris doing his job, right? But it's just annoying. It's just from a fan perspective, it just sucks because this is the result. It just drags on, drags on, drags on, and it's like, and then it's like guys like Kyle Tucker are waiting to sign because they're waiting on Bellinger, and then all this other stuff, and it's just this is why I wanted Tetsuya Mai, because if you get a guy in Mai, all right, we got one piece of our team that helps us. Bellinger leaves, so be it, and then we move from there. Like I'm just really tired of waiting around. Honestly, if I'm a GM of the Yankees, if I'm a GM of the team, I'm like, let's go. You gotta, give us a yes or no. If you can't get any better, then circle back to us. But we're gonna move into a different direction. What's up, Vince? Trade Jazz. I my response to the trade Jazz talks has always been if it's for the right deal. Like if the Yankees are offered an overwhelming package that's like, yeah, I would take that. Sure. Because Jazz is in his walk here. He's a great player. I love Jazz. I don't know how realistic it is that the Yankees are going to retain him long term, especially if you bring back Bellinger, right? And I know Jazz has expressed interest, being here long term, but I don't know. I just sort of get like Labor Torres vibes here. Like the Yankees are just not interested in extending him long term. They don't see him on their team long term, and that could be for a variety of reasons. I have no idea. But I agree with the Yankees listening to offers. I wouldn't just trade him just to trade him, because he is a very good player. Like he's like the second best player in terms of second baseman in baseball, right behind Ketel Marte. I mean, I'm not trading him just to trade him. Like, all right, if you're gonna trade Jazz, I want something of value back in terms of like a good starting pitcher or someone of that ilk. I'm not just dealing him just to deal him. And if you do trade Jazz, you have to bring in another big bat to replace him. I wouldn't just trade Jazz and then all right, you trade Jazz, say you lose Bellinger, it's like then two big bats in your lineup. Like that doesn't make sense. So that's where like the Bo Bichette conversations come in. So I'm open to it, but I'm not like gonna sit here and say, yeah, let's trade Jazz. Like I think the right thing has to come along in terms of doing that. And if not, then cool. Jazz is our second baseman. You let him ball out. But I don't. I look at it from the perspective of, okay, are the Yankees going to extend him long term? If they are going to extend him long term, great. Like then we don't need to have this conversation. But the fact that they're listening to offers kind of tells you they don't really have that interest. So if they don't have that interest, then yeah, they would consider, cashing in on his ceiling now being that it's probably not going to be any higher than it is currently. So I'm open to discussions, but I wouldn't necessarily deal him just to trade him. If another team is going to give him the $37 million over 7 years, let him go. Yep, I agree. Let him go. And let's do some quick math here. I think I already did this. 37 times 7, that's $259 million. Like, the Yankees are at 160. You're nearly $100 million apart. I mean, that's just wild. I'm sorry. Take the right-handed bat and bow. I agree. If the Yankees sign both of them, the Yankees have a good chance to win the World Series. I mean, obviously their odds would go up, but I'm not gonna fully say that because I do think the starting pitching is a concern in terms of the fact you don't have Cole, you don't have Rodon to start the year. That concerns me. Spring training, someone always gets hurt. That's just inevitable. So the starting pitching really scares me. Cam Schlittler, Max Fried, Will Warren all pitched career high in innings last year. So that's also something to monitor. The starting pitching really scares me. And it's unfortunate because, like, if they add to it, right, and get healthy down the stretch in 2026, it's the best rotation in baseball on paper. If it's healthy and they add to it. You think of having Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Cam Schlittler, Luis Hill, Will Warren, and then you add, I know we were throwing Edward Cabrera's name out there, but it's like you add someone of similar ilk like that. That's crazy. 1 through 5, that's insane. And then you got like 2 other guys on top of it that could also jump into the rotation, eat innings, or you could throw in the bullpen. So there is a real opportunity for them to upgrade the starting rotation and in the middle of the season, heading into October, having the best staff on paper, and that could be their chance to win it all. Having a deep rotation like that. And I've always said, I truly believe pitching wins championships. That's something I kind of live by. The Dodgers won the World Series because Yoshinobu Yamamoto saved their ass twice. 2 huge performances in that World Series. I forget. It was I want to pull up the exact games. He saved them twice, and then he came out of the bullpen in Game 7 and shut him down. I mean, the guy. It was Game 6, and then did he start? Game 1? I think he did start Game 1. Anyway, Yamamoto saved them. The Dodgers do not win that World Series without Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And then you add on top of it, Ohtani coming back, you have Blake Snell, Tyler Glass now. Like, the Dodgers always seem to, the last 2 years, have enough starting pitching to suffice. And that's what really matters, I think, at the end of the day. Do you have enough starting pitching and then the bullpen on top of it? Can you shut good offensive teams down? And they do. How is way too cheap to go after both of them. I agree. Yeah, I miss George too. I hate to see the Yankees get rid of Jones. Hey, I agree. I really like Spencer Jones. You know what's funny? I bought his Bowman auto. I got it like super cheap, like $20. I just said screw it. I got it. I got to get it graded though. But I'm very high on Spencer Jones. And the reason I'm very high on him is because he has a lot of tools that you can't teach. Unbelievable power. He's a great runner. His athleticism for being a guy that's like Aaron Judge's size in terms of height, and he has room to grow in terms of his build. He's an incredible athlete. He runs his routes in center field, left field. He is by leaps and bounds a better defensive outfielder than Jason Dominguez. It's not even close. I've watched his highlights online, AAA. He could be the starting left fielder for the Yankees tomorrow from a defensive standpoint. The one thing that is concerning is the strikeouts. He does strike out a lot, but that has gone down. I've talked about that. He's worked on cutting down the swing and miss. And he was doing that before he hurt his back this year and missed some time. And he wasn't on the Yankees 40 man this year, but the power is insane. Left-handed bat in Yankee Stadium. I mean, he cuts down on the swing and miss, and even if he doesn't, he could still run into 35 home runs. I mean, it's and play good defense. And I think the Yankees are sitting there looking at that. It's like, okay, he could play good defense. He could potentially hit us 35 home runs, and we're going to get him on league minimum salary. We don't have to pay him over $30 million. Then what are we doing at that point? Right? So, and I think the only reason Jones comes up a lot in trade conversations because, well, if you sign Cody Bellinger long term, he's your left fielder essentially. So there's really no room for Jones or Dominguez really. So, and the Yankees badly need starting pitching. So you look at teams that would take those prospects and in return for a starting pitcher. You know, Mackenzie Gore, Freddie Peralta, you know, and before he went to the Cubs, Edward Cabrera, those types, Joe Ryan, you know. But yeah, I agree. Like I love Spencer Jones, who is his makeup. I don't know if he's going to pan out. You know, like any prospect, you don't know. But in terms of the intangible tools, what he can do, he's impressive. He really is. And I really don't understand. Like everybody freaking out about the strikeouts. All right, look, and I'm not saying Spencer Jones is going to be Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge had a problem with the strikeouts at one point when he came up, struck out nearly half his at bats, hit below 200. It was not good. His swing was entirely different too. Went to the teacher man, did the entire, you know, rejuvenating his swing, like changing it up. Came out one rookie of the year, 2017. Hit over 50 home runs. I mean, it's something that can be fixed. I think with big power hitters of that size, bigger strike zone, yeah, you are more prone to the swing and miss. Like it's sort of like a Dave Winfield type too. So, but I think the intangible tools are off the charts. And if he could figure out a way to cut down the strikeouts, he could be the next superstar in New York. He could. So from that perspective alone, I like him. Nobody wants to play for us anymore. Ownership stinks. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think nowadays especially it just comes down to dollars and years. These players want to get paid. You do have like the rare instance a player wants to stay in a particular place and might take a little less money. I mean, look at Aaron Judge. Like Aaron Judge really embraced being a Yankee. We named him captain. Padres offered him over $400 million. He took $360 to stay. $360 over 9 years. So I think you do have the rare instance. Players like, look, I want to stay here. This is where I want to be. But nowadays, you know, look, it's like you have rising, you know, you have inflation, all this stuff. Players, you know, grind all these years out the minors, making the majors, pre-arbitration, then arbitration, and free agency. It's like they want to get paid, you know? And I can't blame them. But at the end of the day, it's like I'm thinking in the best interest of the team, and giving Cody Bellinger well over $30 million a year is not in the best interest of the New York Yankees. It's just not. So it's all stupid. He is younger than the others. You mean Bo Bichette or Kyle Tucker? The Yankees need to sign Bo. Yeah, I agree. Guys, I've talked about Bo Bichette so much, where it's like I'm honestly getting fatigued talking about it because, like, I know it's not likely going to happen. I know, but I just try and dream for a second. It's like throughout the entire Judge era, I don't think we've really had a true leadoff hitter. And if you want to throw Trent Grisham in there because he hit over 30 homers this past year, fine. Like, but I don't know if Trent Grisham can duplicate what he did last year. In terms of like a true leadoff hitter, a guy that can get on base, put up professional at bats, come up clutch. It's like Bo Bichette checks all those boxes. He literally checks every single box in that category. He's right-handed in a left-handed dominated lineup like the Yankees are. And he's 27. I know he's had some injury history, but it's like, come on, man. it just makes too much sense. It makes too much sense. He's not a strikeout guy. We talk about every October this team strikes out too much. They can't put the ball in play. Well, we have Bo Bichette, a guy who's an over 800 OPS hitter, and we've seen that consistently throughout his career outside of like 2024. And he gets on base, he sprays the ball over the field, he hits for a high average, can hit for some pop, and he's available. And he might not get the full contract he desires because I mean he's not the perfect player. There's defensive concerns, a little bit of injury history, etc. But it's like he's there. He is there for the taking, and he can hit leadoff. Like I've looked at the numbers. He's over a 300 career hitter at batting leadoff. The guy knows how to hit leadoff, and we have not had a true leadoff hitter. He's better than Stephen Kwan. Everybody talks about, oh, Stephen Kwan, Stephen Kwan. Bo Bichette's a better hitter than Stephen Kwan. And it's like, I don't know. I just don't understand it. I don't understand why we're not in on Bo. Well, I know the reports say otherwise, but I feel like that's sort of just like smoke trying to pressure Scott Boras, right? And Jack Curry said otherwise. Jack Curry said, Bo's not likely. We can let Cody go. We can let Cody and get Bo, let the prospect come in and do the thing. Dude, I agree with you. I literally, like, if Cody leaves and you pivot and you sign Bo and then you say trade for pitching or whatever, like, I think that's a good pivot. I really do. Look, I like Cody Bellinger, but in terms of dollars and cents and years, and Bellinger's older than Bichette, I just feel like Bo Bichette makes more sense. Now, logistically, in terms of like the infield, it's a little bit of like a, puzzle piece because you got Jazz at second, you got McMahon at third. I don't really care about that. I feel like you make it, you figure it out, you make it work. I don't know. I just there's not a lot of free agents that come along that have this kind of profile in terms of being this kind of hitter, because everything nowadays it's launch angle, it's home runs, this and that, and that's all fine. But I don't like to totally disregard a hitter who's just a professional hitter and is a tough out and is a grinder up there. He's professional. Bo Bichette played in the World Series hurt. He was not 100% from that knee sprain. He was hobbling out there, but he busted his ass. He stepped up clutch when they needed him, and he held down second base. And it's just too much of a perfect fit. I know the Phillies are meeting with him on Monday. We'll see what happens with that, but I feel like it just makes too much sense for this team, despite the defensive and all that stuff. I understand there's concerns with that, but I just love who he is as a player and a hitter. Old players that get paid triple digits. I mean, yeah, like, the A's have had a lot of bad like Garrett Cole, good contract. I was a guy before, he's still in his 20s. Aaron Judge, good contract. But they've had a lot of bad, like I've said, Ellsbury, Hicks, DJ. It's just like, and it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's like, if you don't pay up for a player, like, people will call you cheap and this and that. But it's like, I think there's also a realm where it's like, if you're a baseball fan and like, the back of Bellinger's baseball card and like the Yankees' history with giving out long-term contracts, it's like, like a lot of them don't age well. Also looking at the player's age and this and that, and it's like, it's not even so much money. It's more the years. Like, I think the years and the AAV, it kind of ties you down, and not necessarily that it should tie you down, but like, at the end of the day, it's like, I think you could spend the money better elsewhere. That's the asking price, essentially. Don't sign Bowie, sign Bo. Yes, I agree. Trade Volpe. Okay, good. Trade Volpe for nothing. Yeah, I thought you were just going to say trade Volpe for. Well, that's the thing about Volpe. Volpe has no trade value. So I'm almost at the point where, like, all right, I guess you're just better off keeping him, and he's on the bench and he has to earn any playing time he gets moving forward. Because yeah, if you trade him, you get nothing. sign or trade for a starter that can easily be transitioned to a bullpen arm. I do like that, and that was sort of what people kind of thought of with Edward Cabrera. Like, okay, this guy has like some pretty significant injury history, but his stuff is great. Had a career year the past year, and he doesn't need to be a starter like the whole year. He could be like a mid rotation guy. So Cole and Rodon come back, then you can throw him in the bullpen. So I do agree with that assessment. Like either sign or trade for like a mid rotation guy that's effective, can eat some innings, and then yeah, you could throw in the bullpen if you have to when Cole and Rodon go back. It's mainly about making up for those innings, the innings that Rodon and Cole are not going to pitch for like the first 2-3 months. Like that, that's the thing that's really scary because if you don't make up those innings, and then you say get to like June, July when you have both of them back, it could essentially be too late. That's how good the AL East is going to be. So it's like the Yankees have to essentially find a way to make up those innings. I don't think the answer is Ryan Yarbrough and Paul Blackburn making up those innings. I think that's crazy, especially going into spring training where you know someone else is going to get hurt. Like that's the thing. If one of Max Fried, Will Warren, Luis Heel, who has injury history, or Cam Slitler go down, you're screwed. You are really screwed. Hold on one second. A team can never have enough starting pitching. They need to get another starter. Laura, I agree 100%. Team can never have enough starting pitching. That is correct. They my dad always says they've needed starting pitching since 2009. I agree with that sentiment. Look, 2009, they paid Teixeira, Burnett, Sabathia, won the World Series. It's not it's not super complicated. If you spend money and you spend it in the right places, you're gonna have a good chance to go all the way. Just the way it is. I mean, trading for Juan Soto was a smart baseball move. I know it didn't work out long term. We didn't get him long term. But for 2024, I know people have their gripe with Soto, and that's understandable. But if you sit back and you look at that trade, just from a baseball fan standpoint, take a Yankee fan out of it. If the Yankees don't make that trade for Juan Soto, they don't go to the World Series in 2024. It's that simple. Like you had Big G, Giancarlo doing what he did, but if they don't make that trade, they don't get over the hump and go to the World Series. So from that standpoint alone, it was a good baseball move. Even though it didn't work out long term, it was a good baseball move that the Yankees needed in terms of someone to protect Judge, someone to have behind them. And yeah. Where would you play Bo? Who would they move? They ain't trading Volpe, unfortunately. It's a great question. That is something I've thought about. And the conclusion I'm sort of at is if you sign Bo, I would say spring training, you try him out at shortstop. I know his defense is dreadful, but I would say try him out at short. You have Caballero, that's like the emergency shortstop defensively. That's the guy who he is. He's like a utility guy. He can play all over. So I would realistically try Bo at short. If that doesn't work, then I would have him play a little bit of second and maybe a little bit of third base, possibly, kind of mix matching between the two. And in terms of the days he would play second base, and I actually heard this take from someone else that made a lot of sense. They were saying Bo could hypothetically play second base because you know Stan's going to get hurt again, right? So the DH spot is going to open up. So I feel like you could have Jazz and Bo rotate between the DH spot and second base. And then you could, I don't know, you could try Jazz a little bit at third along with McMahon and then have Bo at second. There's some ways you could go about it. But the main point of emphasis is this person was saying, Stan's going to get hurt. So at bats are going to open up and you're not going to have Rice DHing because Rice can be the everyday first baseman. And you have Wells catching, of course. So I think from that it's a little bit of it's a little bit of deep thinking in terms of like mix matching, but I feel like that's kind of the route you can go. Try them a little bit around the infield, second base, third, short, and then you go from there. And I do agree with the assessment in terms of what this person was saying. Like Stan's going to get hurt, so at bats will open up. Whether you have Jazz DH some days, Bichette DH some days, um, and then mixing matching between third base and second. Uh, and what I say about shortstop, I mean like in spring training, I would have Bichette getting regular reps at short, see how he does. If it's a problem, shift him over to second or have him play a little bit of second and third, sort of deal. I don't think McMahon's going to play every day because of the splits, and that's why they re-signed Rosario to be like the platoon guy. But even Rosario, I feel like is more like a guy. It's like he comes in like a pinch hit situation with a lefty. I don't I don't necessarily see Ahmed Rosario being like a guy that plays every like 3 days or something like that. So Cashman should call Boris's bluff. I think that's what he's doing. I really do. I think Brian Cat and I'm gonna recommend something too. I if you're curious, I have it. I post a lot on Instagram stories, but I do have a story. David Sampson used to be one of the executives, the baseball ops at the Marlins. He does his own podcast, Nothing Personal with David Sampson. And there's a video from 2019. He talks about basically how Scott Boras negotiates. It was really fascinating. I loved it. It's like 10 minutes long. I clipped the link in my story if you guys are curious, but I would recommend watching that because it involves a lot of this mind game back and forth in terms of like the GM trying to call Boris's bluff and then Boris like you know, trying to get the teams to like cave and like, just being a negotiator, you know what I mean? Like the back and forth deal. It's really cool though. I highly recommend it if you want to watch it. But I agree. I think that's what Cashman's doing. Boris, the way Boris negotiates, it's like, okay, yeah, we have all these teams interested. Like, if you give us 7 years for 240, you have yourselves a deal right now, and it's like Cash and Boris will list the teams, and I think Cashman's sitting there being like, he's kind of full of it. Like there's not all those teams that are in on Bellinger, and I think the Yankees have. If I had to guess, I think they have the best offer, the highest offer in terms of years and dollars, and Boris is trying to trick them into thinking that they don't, and they have to outbid these other teams that they don't have to outbid. So therefore, the Yankees are outbidding themselves. And Brian Cashman's basically sitting there being like, I'm not going to outbid myself. So yeah, it's sort of like this mind game both sides have to play against. And if the Dodgers and Cubs are legit contenders, here's why I don't think. I think the Dodgers have like some interest because they know Cody Bellinger, he homegrown player, he came up with them, but he had a lot of good years, a lot of bad. It's like mixed. I think they know better than anybody how he would age. And in terms of looking at him versus Kyle Tucker, I just think if they were to go after one of them, it would probably be Kyle Tucker between the two, in terms of the better player. Also, the fact that Kyle Tucker could potentially, reportedly, take a shorter term, higher AAV. I think that's something the Dodgers would be open to doing. Um, so I think like there's some interest, but not crazy. Like I don't think it's much interest as the Yankees supposedly, because the Dodgers do need an outfielder. But again, I think Boris could exaggerate that. And in terms of the Cubs, there's a reason why I don't buy the Cubs. The Cubs literally salary dumped Cody Bellinger. You mean to tell me the Ricketts are going to hand him 6 or 7 years now? They literally wanted to unload his salary. He signed a 3-year contract with the Cubs after his 1-year deal in 2023. So in 2024 rolled around, he had another year and then an opt out that he used obviously this year. Cubs didn't want to pay him. I think it was what, like 18, 20 million. I forget the exact number, but the Yankees had to pay most of that contract, most of that money, right, for 2025. And the Yankees in return gave up Cody Petit, who was an absolute bust. Sucks. The Cubs DFA'd him. I don't even know where he is now. I think he went to the Orioles or something. But let me look up. Let me look up how much he was making. I forget how much he was making in 2025. 3 years, 26 million. He signed 3 years for 80 with the Cubs. So the Yankees paid, I think the Yankees paid like 85% of that. I'm pretty sure. Um, let me how much of Yankees pay Bellinger contract? The Yankees paid most of it because all they had to give up was Cody Petit, and the Cubs wanted to salary dump him. So it's like a year after they salary dump him, now they want him back on a 5-year deal or longer. That doesn't make sense. Mike Trout to the Yanks. What's up, Connor? Mike Trout, too injury prone. 4 or 5 years ago, absolutely. Judge the Mets. Oh my gosh. What's up, Haas? The strong pitching. The starting pitching scares me too. Yeah, it really nerve wracks me because it has the potential to be very good, but health is the biggest question mark. And you don't have Coldestar, you don't have Rodon, so it's like at the end of the day, I just another guy goes down in spring training, you're in deep trouble. See if there's any updates on Bellinger. I've been rambling so much. There's just so much on Bellinger though. Between he wants a 36, 37 AAV, 7-year deal. Yankees won't go over 5. He goes 6. It's like it's just crazy. I just want it all done. Like it's just if he doesn't come back, he doesn't come back. I just want it over with, and we can move on regardless whether he stays or goes. It's just too long. I understood why Juan Soto held up the Yankees offseason a bit last year. Obviously, it's understandable. Cody Bellinger is a good player. He should not be holding up the Yankees all offseason. He just shouldn't. Like, I'm sorry, that's just crazy. It shouldn't happen. Yes, sir. Let's go Yankees. Starting pitching wins championships. Absolutely. Absolutely. Starting pitching does win championships. I mean, don't get me wrong. Offense matters. Like you've had these postseasons where the Yankees offense just goes absolutely cold. But in terms of looking at this particular October, what was worse, starting pitching or the offense? It's not even close. Starting pitching was worse. I mean, they just laid a total goose egg in that ALDS. It was horrible. Max Fried, just complete letdown in that series. Cam Schiller didn't have the same kind of performance that he did against Boston. Luis Gil was not himself. Coming back from the injury, it was just a nightmare. So for those reasons alone, I know the offense didn't hit outside Aaron Judge, but it's hard to win games when the Blue Jays are embarrassing you on their home field, putting up double digits night after night. It's not good. It's really not good. The offense could score 8 or 9 runs, you still lose. It's just crazy. I got to see him play in Hudson Valley because I live in Poughkeepsie. Nice. His swing is just good. You mean Spencer Jones, right? The New York Yankees will never win the. You said chip. I know you meant chip. We'll never win the chip with Boone ever. Yeah, I agree with that. I hate Boone. Boone sucks. I just my biggest gripe with Boone. Every manager, you're gonna have your disagreements in terms of the pitching changes and all that stuff, and the subs and little moves here and there. My biggest gripe with Aaron Boone is just not being honest, like just lying to us straight up. And I just really don't understand in this day and age. Is it really that bad to just be honest? Like, are players really that soft now where if a guy's not hustling to first base, we can't call that out? We can't say he wasn't hustling. I just don't understand it. I don't understand the babying. I don't understand the coddling. It's just too much, man. It really is too much. And Joe Girardi was never like that. Joe Girardi, for any reason you might not have liked him, he was tough on his players. The players performed for him. He won a World Series here. I mean, look at Pat Murphy with the Brewers. Like, were the Brewers any worse because Pat Murphy was the manager and he was holding them accountable? No. Now, then they went and played the Dodgers team and got absolutely smoked. I can't deny that. But again, like they're a small market team. They played above expectations. They have a great manager who holds his players accountable. They're a young team. Like at the end of the day, it's really not a lot to ask to just say, can you please hold these guys accountable and just be honest to us? And Yankee fans pay a lot of money. The media spends a lot of time. Yankee media, they put in a lot of hard work. Stop BSing us. Stop telling us it is sunshine and rainbows when it isn't. Just be honest with us. You're not stupid. You know the truth. Anthony Volpe is not having a good year. You could come out and say he is not having a good year. And then you could spin it into, okay, we still believe in him and this and that. But be honest with us. Stop trying to sell us that Anthony Volpe is one of the best shortstops in the game. Just stop it. You look ridiculous. Why is honesty such a bad thing? I don't understand it. Because you're going to hurt the players' feelings? That's what we're concerned about? God, it just sucks. He's just, it's like a babysitter. I'm just, Boone, really. Hey, Gavin, what's up? Boone annoys me. Boone is definitely a problem. I don't like him as a manager. I don't either. I was just ranting for a few minutes about Boone. I don't want to talk about Boone anymore. They have Jazz at second. Bo isn't a good shortstop. That's true. But I was saying earlier, like, I still think you could make it work having Jazz and Bo. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, sign Bo and trade Jazz. I'm really not all for that because your team's a lot better if you have both Bo and Jazz in your lineup versus just Bo. It's a little bit of a conundrum, but like I think you can make it work in terms of third base. McMahon's not playing every day. Second base, you do have Jazz, but like other people have said, Stanton's going to get hurt again. It's inevitable. He's not going to play a full year. So DH at bats are going to open up because Ben Rice is going to be the first baseman. So I think logistically you can make it work. It's a little bit of a conundrum, but I don't think it should stop the Yankees from getting a great bat in Bo Bichette, a consistent bat, and a guy that's going to produce. He can produce in October. He has that pedigree to him. And if he's going to cost around the same as Cody Bellinger, if not maybe less at this rate, who knows, then why wouldn't you? He's younger, right-handed hitter, more consistent at the plate. It's just a no-brainer in my mind. Get Bregman at third base. Let Spencer Jones compete for left field job. They're not going to spend the money on Bregman. And I don't think they like Bregman because the whole Astros cheating scandal. They would never do that. I think if you didn't have Ryan McMahon, Bregman could be an option, but I just don't see it with Ryan McMahon because one, you can't trade Ryan McMahon, and Alex Bregman, it's like a strictly third base sort of thing. Like he's played some second and a little bit of short, but he's primarily a third baseman. So I don't really see it fitting, nor do I see them spending the money and the Astros cheating stuff like that. I just don't think I don't think they're ever gonna do that. It's not a bad idea. Like I like Bregman. Look, I like Bregman in terms of, I don't like what he did, the Astros cheating scandal. Like I kind of hate him for that. But in terms of like the player he is, in terms of the pedigree and just his makeup, he's not a bad player. He's a player the Yankees could use. But with Ryan McMahon, unless they traded McMahon, I don't see that as possible as a possibility of happening. Cashman made those deals not very good, were they? Um, yeah, I mean Cashman's at his doozy of deals. Cashman. Here's what I'm gonna say about Cashman. Um, is he the best GM? No. Is he the worst GM? No. I think he's somewhere in the middle. I don't. I don't think he's. I don't think he's a terrible GM. I think there's things he's done that have been good. Well, one of my biggest critics of him is not building a solid team around Aaron Judge. I don't know how you live on that. And then in terms of like the prospects too, like the Yankees, I mean, you could argue like before all the changing draft stuff, like they have low draft standing because they're always good and relevant. But the Yankees have whiffed on a lot of draft prospects. Like they just outside of Aaron Judge and like Cano, like who have who have they had come up and Ben Rice this year? Who have they had come up that has been a success, like that's panned out? I mean, Gary Sanchez was kind of the 1 year wonder sort of deal. Tyler Austin didn't work out. Like that whole baby Bombers era, it was really just Aaron Judge that panned out and Luis Severino, but Severino got hurt a lot. So I think that's my biggest critic of Brian Cashman. A lot of whiffs in the draft, international signings too, and then not building a solid team around Aaron Judge. Because if Aaron Judge gets hurt, this team sucks. So that's my other critic. But what I will say about Brian Cashman is the Yankees do consistently compete. In terms of like for the division and all that, they haven't won a World Series in 15 plus years now, going on. Or not longer than that. I don't since 09. So that's another critic, but I think where I'm at is he's not horrible, but he's not the greatest. That's sort of where I'm at with Brian Cashman. And I think in the middle of that is Hal Steinbrenner in the sense of like he spends money, but he's not his father. So, the Yankees aren't the Dodgers. Like they do have a budget, payroll matters to them. Versus the Dodgers, like they don't give a crap about payroll, budget, all that stuff. And they have a executive in Andrew Friedman in baseball ops. He's very smart. Came over from the Rays. Dodgers have the number one farm system, according to a poll they just did on MLB.com. From MLB executives, they have the best farm system. It was ranked number one in 2025. So Dodgers consistently win. They draft well. They spend money. It's like the Yankees are very far behind in terms of that level, that echelon of success, essentially. And on top of it, Dodgers back-to-back champs. So the Dodgers are what the Yankees used to be. Like the Yankees used to have George Steinbrenner, who had the eagerness to win, and then the brains, Gene Michael, who drafted the core four. Like that's essentially what the Dodgers are doing now. Like they have great baseball minds in drafting and developing, and they have an ownership group that doesn't care about money and just will spend whatever it takes to win. That's how the Yankees used to be. For my time, fortunately. How'd you feel about an offer for Tucker, 4 years, 152 million, 38 million AAV, shorter years, higher AAV? I'd love it. That'd be perfect. You know why? Because Bellinger wants 37. And if you could get Tucker for 38 over 4 years when he's several years younger than Bellinger, I'm all over that. I'd be all over that. Although I think it would take a little bit more than that. I think if you do 4 years, I think you're going to be in the 40s AAV range. For Tucker, that is if he takes a short-term deal, which I'm not even sure if I'm buying if he's taking a short-term deal. Like the dude is what, 27, 28 years old? Like, I don't know. That just doesn't make sense. Like, it's so weird. I know you got the looming lockout and all that, but you think Kyle Tucker at his age and what he's done in his career, I know he had a sort of a down year for the Cubs, but I think without makeup, he could get himself at least like 8 or 9 years, $300+ million. But maybe he can't. Or maybe he wants 400. I don't know. Paul Skeens to the Yanks. Maybe one day. Opinions on Peralta. I like Freddie Peralta. Um, Good pitcher, top of the rotation arm in Milwaukee. There is a lot of uncertainty if Milwaukee wants to deal him in the sense of they know they're not going to sign him long term because they're small market. But Milwaukee's been very relevant in October the last several years. They know how to draft and develop players, and he's a big part of their team. So if they trade him, it's like that's kind of a big navigation of how to, come out next year and compete in NL Central when you lose your top rotation arm. But they did figure that out with Corbin Burns, so it's not impossible. But in terms of a Yankee standpoint, I really like the guy. The one bugaboo is like I don't love these a 1 year rental, but I think he'd slot nicely in the rotation as a one or a two. Probably like right behind Max Fried, but I love him. His fastball plays up, good changeup, good curve, slider. I think he's like a 4 or 5 pitch pitcher, and changes eye levels a lot too. The fastball and off speed. Uh, I remember he pitched against the Yankees opening day actually, and he did relatively well. I think he went like 5 or 6 innings, 2 earned or something like that. I know Wells took him deep, but he's a good top of the rotation pitcher. He costs a lot. You definitely would probably say goodbye to Dominguez or Jones, if not both. Um, and Milwaukee doesn't have to trade him. Like they're a competitive team. They're going to be competitive next year or this year, 2026. So it's like from everything I've read and heard, there's like a hesitancy, like they're not sure if they're going to trade him. They're just listening. But I would love him on the Yanks. I think he'd be a good fit, despite being a 1 year rental. Lucas Giolito, the Yankees. I'm really not crazy about Giolito in terms of like the elbow stuff. I just he's sort of like a ticking time bomb. I feel like with that. I'm gonna pull up his baseball savant page. But he has shown he can be like a decent middle of the rotation kind of arm, but his metrics were down this year. Um, I don't know, 31. I'd have to see what the contract is in terms of what he'd get. If it's 1 year, okay. Uh, Anything more than two, I'm like kind of nah. So not crazy about Giolito, but if he could stay healthy and eat some innings, okay. But I'd have to see the contract. Yankees will make Yankees will make moves, my brother. Big ones, to come. I hope so, man. I hope so. I need a big move. I need a big move. Whether it's Bellinger or Bichette or a trade for a pitcher, I need something. I need something. Why do you think Brian Cashman loves Boone so much? Because Boone listens to the analytics. Aaron Boone, Brian Cashman's huge on analytics, like a lot of teams are. And today's manager, they just rely heavily on the analytics. There's very little old school involved. So at the GM, and this is proven, Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone have stated themselves they're in lockstep in terms of what they do analytically, preparing for games and playoff runs, and they don't disagree. Joe Girardi and Joe Girardi and Brian Cashman had their disagreements. Joe Girardi's more of like an old school manager. He was on, the late '90s Yankees teams. Managed the Marlins in the early 2000s. So like they didn't see eye to eye. Like Joe Girardi isn't like a super analytical guy. Aaron Boone is. Aaron Boone is very analytical. And that's how they base most of their decisions. So if you agree with your manager and they're incorporating the philosophy that you want, then there's really no reason to get rid of you, I guess. But and also too, the Yankees kind of have like this thing where it's like a 10-year timeline with the manager. They saw that with Joe Torre. I don't know if it was exactly 10 years or close to it. Girardi was here 10 years, and Boone is on track to be here for 10 years. So it's like, they kind of like that timeline of 10 years for a manager, even though I don't necessarily agree with that. And I don't agree with Boone does. I don't hate analytics. I like analytics. But I feel like you need like a good mix of both. You need a mix of analytics and old school. You can't just have one extreme over the other. I think I think at that point it becomes a bit of a detriment than an advantage, in my opinion. Going back to New York City in September. Nice, dude. Catching some games. Scott Boras is hurting baseball. I'm impartial on that because at the end of the day, like you have to like sort of put yourselves in his shoes. Like if you're an agent, your job is to get the best deal, and Scott Boras is doing everything in terms of how baseball is lined up in terms of free agency and the whole shebang, and he's using it to his advantage, his client's advantage, and he's trying to get the best deal. That's his job. Scott Boras would be doing a disservice, or any agent would be doing a disservice to their clients if they're not trying to get them the best deal, even if that's not the most practical or realistic. So I don't. I get frustrated, but I don't necessarily blame the agent because the agent's doing their job. We may not like it as fans, but he's trying to get the best deal. We don't have to agree with it, but I think the way to fix it is, and I know the players will never agree to it. Um, you need sort of what like the NBA has in the NFL. You need a signing deadline because free agency in general moves too slow. I mean, everybody mentioned Scott Boras, but it's like, why isn't Kyle Tucker signed yet? Why isn't Framber Valdez or um who else is Ranger Suarez? Why aren't they signed yet? It's like this just this is just the state of the sport. Like everybody wants to get paid what they feel is their worth, but that's constantly being overvalued. And then especially in an era where prices are going up and everything, it continues to. And I think if you have a signing deadline and um you have a salary floor, I think that would fix a lot of the issues, in my opinion. I'm not in favor of a cap. I think if you have the money, you should be able to spend it. But yeah, it's too slow. I think there can be some restructuring that can go on that um, speeds up the process. Because at the end of the day, it's like, look, if I were a sports agent, I would be taking notes from what Boris is doing, trying to get the best deal. I'm trying to make the most money, and like at the end of the day, like I can't, you know, everybody has their own opinion, but it's like at the end of the day, that's what he's supposed to do. I think baseball can, I don't know, make some structuring in the way things run that make free agency move a little quicker. So hold on one sec. Sorry. Can you believe Scoop Ball's arbitration offer? Yeah, that's insane. That is actually insane. Oh, Tigers got to trade him now. Like what are you doing? $19 million, and someone was saying they paid Alex Cobb $15 million at one point. And you and Scooball are going at it over 13 million. My gosh, just give him the $32 million at this point. Like you're gonna piss the dude off, and I mean they don't want to pay him anyway, long term. But now you're gonna. It's never a good thing to go to arbitration. It's just you got to rip the player, and it's just very awkward, and it's like. But I guess I can understand from the standpoint if you don't want to pay him, then all right, you're going to be cheap and take him to arbitration. But it's like, my gosh, he's leaving. They're either going to trade him or just let him walk. I mean, they should trade him though. It's like, what are you doing? Like, now you're going to fight him in arbitration, and if you don't trade him, then you're just going to let him walk in free agency and get nothing in return. It's crazy. I feel bad for Tigers fans. I mean, we Yankee fans complain, but it's like, my gosh, they just had a great year, and Scooball is going to walk because their owner doesn't want to pay him, and he doesn't even want to pay him in arbitration. Yankee Talks, what's up, dude? Same with you. Sorry, guys, I'm just getting over getting sick. I'm just getting over getting sick. I have a little bit of a runny nose. How does not know what he is doing? It's January and nothing. I mean, there's really, there's really nothing much they can. I mean, they can go out and trade for pitching. The only problem is like Dominguez and Jones would be attached in those deals, so it's like they need to know what's going to happen with Bellinger ASAP. And that's why I said like give Bellinger 48-hour deadline, and if he doesn't accept, move on. Because I agree in the sense of like they shouldn't be letting it uphold their offseason any much longer. Look what the Dodgers are doing. Yeah, man. The Dodgers are like the pinnacle. They are doing what the Yankees used to do. Back-to-back World Series, constantly hungry to go for a three-peat. And it's like, and it's not even so much they spend money. They know how to spend it, man. Blake Snell was a great move. Tyler Glasnow was a great move. Shohei Ohtani, that was the best investment, arguably, in the history of the sport. Because he's coming from a market in Japan. Japanese people coming over to LA, watching this guy. I mean, I remember when Tanaka, I mean, that pays for so much. You have to realize how much money that pays out when you sign a Japanese player of Otani's status in terms of ad revenue and just tourism and all that stuff. It's crazy. I mean, they're paying for a lot of the contract doing that. And I remember when, the Yankees got Tanaka, you always had a section in Yankee Stadium, upper deck, all Japanese people, and they'd have like a huge Japanese flag. They'd hold it up every game. It was like right above, like between the dugout and third base. It was like upper deck, and you would just see they'd have the flag out every game, and then you just have press and all that stuff. It's like, and it's funny because the White Sox had to be talked into getting Munetake Murakami from a marketing standpoint. They had to talk their owner into doing that and saying like how good of an idea that is. It's crazy. But we need to stop with the analytical BS. I get it. They need to let the manager manage. Dude, I agree. Like I think the analytics are valuable, but it gets overblown to an extent. It really does. Like, especially with Devin Williams. It's like you're seeing in front of you. This guy cannot pitch in high leverage. He mentally cannot do it. Like baseball is so mental. That's why I say it's 90% mental. Because it's like playing chess. It gets in his head, his mechanics go out of whack, versus when he goes out there when he's up 6 runs or down 6 runs, he's like a totally different pitcher. So what does that tell you? It's mental. Thinking, oh shit, here we go again. And at that point, you can't look at the analytics and solely dictate off the analytics. Throw the analytical book out the window at that point. It's like you have to know how to balance analytics, but also have a brain and understand the situation and the context behind it, past the stats. And that's why I like A-Rod so much, because I know A-Rod has had his faults. A-Rod knows baseball. If you sit down and watch A-Rod broadcast in the booth, you'll see that. I know the guy cheated. He came up, he acted like an a-hole, did some bad things in his career. But watching his documentary, he watched constantly other games, other teams. He's a baseball savant. He loves the sport. He genuinely loves the sport. Derek Jeter, as great as Derek Jeter was, the GOAT, Derek Jeter would go to the field, play. Baseball was his job. He'd go home. He wouldn't really watch baseball. A-Rod had the MLB package his whole career. He would watch baseball. He'd have it on multiple TVs. I mean, that guy knows baseball. So it's like That's the kind of manager you need, like a Ron Washington. Ron Washington knows baseball. You know, I don't know. I do agree with the free agent deadline facts. Pedro Martinez said it best: arbitration is the dark side of baseball. Yeah, it really is, dude. Because arbitration case, you have to go in there. You have an independent arbitrator, a judge essentially, and they're hearing the team's case, they're hearing the player's case, and then they have to make a decision. And the team essentially has to go in there and say everything they dislike about the player. And it's like it's almost kind of weird because it's like you go into that arbitration meeting, like what is there negative to say about Terry Skubal? Like I don't know. It's just, but even when you say negative stuff, like it happened between the Brewers and Corbin Burns. They went to arbitration, and Corbin Burns literally came out in spring training. This was, I think, believe the year before he was traded, inevitably. And he's like, yeah, he's like, that hurt our relationship. He's like, I heard things in that meeting that like really ticked me off. And it's like, that's why like arbitration just doesn't make sense, period, especially when it comes to a good player. Because it's like, why do you want to burn those bridges? You know, if it's over a player that's not very good or you don't see on your roster long term, then okay, I guess. But if it's a player of such high value that you think you would want to have long term or would want to pay to have long term, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. But I guess from the Tigers' perspective, they're just being cheap and ownership doesn't want to pay him anyway, and so they're going to fight this in arbitration because they know he's going to walk or they'll trade him. So, but it's unfortunate. I feel bad for Tigers fans. No way Belly gets 37, 38 million per year. I agree. There's absolutely no way. He should take the Yankees offer. 32 over 5. 32 a year for 5. You should take the Yankees offer. Starting pitching, third base. Oh, third base, they got McMahon. And I think he's owed like $60 million this year. You can't move that contract unless you probably eat a lot of the money, which doesn't make sense. My stance on McMahon is this. Was it the perfect trade? No. But I'm going to pull up his baseball savant real quick. Ryan McMahon is arguably the best defensive third baseman in baseball. You watch this dude pick it at third. It is unbelievable. He's 31 years old. He's a slightly above average base runner. His batting, not good. And you know, Colorado, very friendly hitters park, obviously the Coors effect. But he's usually good for like around 20 home runs. And surprisingly enough, he had a good October for the Yankees. He really started to pick it up, especially in the latter half of the year, like mid to late September. So let's see what he does offensively. Maybe he could surprise us and run into 25 home runs and be a league average hitter. You know, like I don't think that's crazy to say. Like that's a possibility. Am I expecting it? No. But if he could be close to a league average hitter or a league average hitter on top of the defense, that's a win. I know it's $16 million. That's an overpay, but it's like everybody's overpaid now. And the Yankees got McMahon because of his defense. They needed a guy at third base who could really, pick it because you have Max Fried, who's a heavy ground ball pitcher to the left side. And Oswald Peraza was such a negative asset offensively. And what he was doing defensively was not making up for it. So it just made sense for the Yankees to go in that direction. That was the best guy out there to do that. As good as Eugenio Suarez is offensively, he's dreadful at third base defensively. So that didn't make a lot of sense, especially what the D-backs were asking. So I contrary to what a lot of people believe, I like McMahon. And I think there could potentially be more in there with the bat as a Yankee. And I'm hoping I could be pleasantly surprised a little bit. And they have him under contract for a couple more years, and it is what it is. Like, at the end of the day, I think that's better than if they traded for Nolan Arenado, because I know that rumor is getting floated around a lot. And you'll have Ahmed play some third base because he can hit left-handed pitching, and that's it. I think shortstop's a way bigger issue than that. Um, yeah, I wanted Tetsuya my bad, man. I really did. Especially when I already looks up to Garrett Cole. It's like, come on, come on. 3 years. Not to mention he's a Japanese player. He's gonna, you know, bring a lot of money to Houston, the Japanese market, all that. There's an opt out after every single year, and if he doesn't work out, it's 3 years. You mean to tell me you hated the guy that much? You didn't want to make a 3-year commitment to a guy that's 27? Even if he doesn't pan out, there is still some benefit in that. Like, come on, man. I just that really annoyed me. It's not like he's getting 5 or 6 years. Come on. And I know other teams didn't like him and this and that, but I feel like that. I hope I'm wrong. I feel like that was a miss though on the Yankees' part and a lot of teams. The Dodgers probably got their money back and then some from Otani's contract. Oh yeah, absolutely. They're recouping that contract from just his market alone. He's so marketable. One of the best players in the game. Being DH and a starting pitcher, it's nuts. We need to be the Yankees of the late '90s are worth $8.3 billion. Like, come on, yep, I agree. With a strike lurking, Bellinger needs to take the Yankees offer. I don't think another team is offering 7 years of what Boris is saying. If to take the better offer, Boris Bellinger. I agree, man. I don't. I think Boris is trying to get the Yankees to outbid themselves. That's what I believe. I think the Yankees have the best offer. You also have to remember one of the reporters. I don't know if it was Rosenthal or Sherman. One of them said some teams have cooled on Bellinger, and you wonder who those teams are because all the teams we've heard: Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, Angels, Cubs. Some of those teams I don't think are even in it in the first place. One of them being the Cubs. And how serious are the Mets? Are they more serious than the Yankees? I don't believe that to be true. I don't think Steve Cohen's jumping at Cody Bellinger. I think he'd be jumping at Kyle Tucker, especially if he could get him for less years and higher AAV. Because Cohen don't care about money. Sign a better player. I think Bellinger's market's overvalued. Put it simply. Yankees must let Bellinger go and get Bichette 100%. That's what I want. I mean, look, I like. Don't get me wrong. I didn't just want to come on here and be negative and bash Bellinger. Like, I respect Bellinger's camp wanting 7 years. But I'm speaking in terms of a Yankee fan and the team. What's best for the team? That's not best for the team. And if he can get that elsewhere, good for him. But in terms of what's best for the team, the best thing for the team is to get Bellinger back on the Yankees' terms. 5 years, 160 max. That's it. If you want to go to 165, okay, that's it, max. 5 for 160-ish. Not a dollar over. I'm done with these long-term deals that a guy in his 30s, it just doesn't work. We'll do something, man. We'll do something. Well, I feel like we can't get who we want is crazy. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know. I feel like it just sucks. I feel like we'd have a lot more done if just Bellinger wasn't holding up the market. Sucks. It really sucks. Yankees better go to plan B. He's holding up the whole offseason for us. Yeah, he is. How about offering Tucker a high AV short-term deal? I'm open to that. I really am open to that. The only thing I question is the reports saying that. I don't know how legitimate that is, to be honest with you. Because Kyle Tucker is better than Cody Bellinger. And he's several years younger. And he's in the prime of his career, 28 years old. Like, why would he take a short-term deal with opt-outs and then I don't know. I just really don't see it. If that were the case, absolutely. And I wasn't totally sold on Tucker, but the more I see of what Bellinger wants, the more I'm convinced about Tucker. But I honestly think the better fit would be Bo, just because he's a right-handed hitter. You know what you're going to get with him. I know the defense isn't great. Um, Kyle Tucker is a little confusing just in the sense of like Judge is a right fielder. So are you putting Kyle Tucker in left? Can Kyle Tucker play left field? Um, Left field is notoriously hard in Yankee Stadium. It's so spacious out there. Um, so I don't really know what you're doing there, but in terms of who Kyle Tucker is, it's not like I dislike him. I like the player. But it's just confusing why he would take a shorter term deal. Like I know reports have said that. I just don't understand why that would be. Um, but so I think I'm gonna get ready to wrap this live stream up. Let's see if there's any new news on Bellinger. I haven't heard anything. But it's crazy, man. I just hope. I was talking to some people that are saying, and nobody has inside information, but just like Yankee fans are saying, they think this gets wrapped up this weekend. And I sort of agree with that assessment because when you look at the fact of like all these leaks happening, especially on the Yankees part, like the Yankees are fed up, man. The Yankees want this to be done with. They want to move on, whether it's with Bellinger, without him. They have needs they have to address. They have a lot of holes in the bullpen, starting pitching. Um, if they don't get Bellinger, all right, then do you get another bat? So at the end of the day, it's like, and everything was Soto last year. I think the Yankees are just tired of Boris doing this and they just want to be over. So they're leaking everything. You're saying, oh, we're going to go after Bo Bichette, even though I don't think that's like fully legitimate. But they're saying that probably just, put pressure on Boris. But like I've said, the real pressure I would put on Boris, hard stop, 5 years, 160. You have 48 hours to take this deal. If you don't want to take it, have a nice day. Good luck beating that open market. And if you can beat it, great. And I know what you got to do what you got to do. The Yankees got to do what they got to do. Sort of deal. So, yeah, that's about everything I got on this. I'll go live again when the Yankees actually do something of significance. I just want to hop on here and talk about this because this is like crazy stuff coming out in terms of like all the leaks and Yankees offer this, Bellinger wants this. So I feel like for that reason alone, we're getting close. Hopefully something happens by this weekend so we can just know to move on regardless of what happens and get the offseason going and get this team better for 2026. So, yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know you guys have been, fluctuating in and out on this Friday evening. So thank you for tuning in. And hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend and stay tuned for any updates, any news that come along on the Yankee side. And I'll try and keep you guys up to date on that the best I can. Thank you very much, guys, and have a good night.